So, the Suicide Squad has been out for like a week now, and even though everyone has talked about it already, I thought it'd be cool to throw my hat into the ring and talk about it myself, and what I thought. Oh, also, there's gonna be spoilers for this, so there's your warning. The Suicide Squad is what happens when the studio sits back and the director is given full control of the project, and it shows. James Gunn has once again created an imaginative, funny, batshit insane film, but now with the letter R and a lot of blood. To get this out of the way, this film is better than the original Suicide Squad. Well, that bar was pretty low to begin with, but yes, it pretty much does everything that movie attempted to do much better on multiple levels. It makes it even seem worse in comparison, since you now know what a competent Suicide Squad movie should be. Moving on, the film is insanely graphic with some pretty intense gore, though luckily not letting it get out of hand to the point where it's just gratuitous, but instead helping ground the characters and showing that a group known as the Suicide Squad is probably going to be dealing with a lot of blood and death. Speaking of which, the first scene of the film encapsulates the tone perfectly, showing how this is not going to be taking itself seriously and just having a good time, and I absolutely loved it. Although I'm not sure if it's sadistic or not to love watching a bunch of dumbass characters we got to know literally nothing about get violently killed. But I was a little pissed when Captain Boomerang got blended, so I'm probably fine. But then again, I laughed out loud at this. So I guess I kinda am sadistic. Though the characters we do get stuck with for the film are pretty great. Although basically being Deadshot 2.0, Bloodsport was a great character with his aversion to Amanda Waller and having to join the squad. John Cena as Peacemaker was a joy, basically being an overly patriotic and violent Captain America with a messed up view of justice. Harley Quinn was great as well, with the best action scene and being a good foil for the rest of the squad, as the crazy carefree member. Rick Flag was actually pretty good this time around too, and although having somewhat of the same position on the team as Bloodsport, was still nice to see him do stuff, and it was sad when he did die. Shockingly, the soul of the movie comes from Ratcatcher 2 and motherfucking Polka Dot Man of all characters, where you actually feel bad for them, which makes them seem less like villains and hope they make it out. You hope Ratcatcher makes it out. Then there's King Shark, who's basically a more violent Groot, but still awesome, having a somewhat childhood innocence to him until he starts eating people. This movie has tension in it. Like, I didn't know who was going to live and who was going to die throughout the whole film, and actually worried me about these characters. That is something I have not been able to say about a movie in a while. And yeah, this film isn't exactly deep with a plot that has twists and turns, but I think it helps immensely since it's not trying to be that and instead embraces the craziness of it and keeps it nice and simple. Like, it's a movie about a squad of villains tasked with killing a giant intergalactic starfish. It doesn't get more complicated than that. I quickly want to mention how the cinematography as well was fantastic, with Harley's action scene being a standout for what I can only describe as having a concentrated, chaotic camera work to it. And this right here, this was my favorite scene in the movie. This was nice. The only issues I actually do have with the movie are the pacing and the comedy. The pacing during the first act was great, especially with the beach assault and the real team getting onto shore. Though it drags somewhat in the second act, where after rescuing Rick Flag, the team then needs to go get Harley, who has a somewhat pointless love subplot with a new dictator of a country, who she kills and is then replaced with a worse guy, who also doesn't do much to affect the plot either. Comedy as well for me is pretty hit and miss. At points, yeah, I mean, comedy is the most subjective topic, but this is just what I thought. Some of it could be pretty cringe, like the back and forth about the beach full of dicks.
This whole beach was completely covered in dicks, and somebody said I'd eat every dick until the beach was clean for liberty. I would say no problemo.
Not exactly what I'd like to call funny. But the best jokes and gags to come from the film were from the situations, honestly, such as the camp scene where Bloodsport and Peacemaker trying to one-up each other, acting like dumbass teenagers to see who could pull off the craziest kills, and ending it with turning out that they actually killed allies. Polka Dot Man seeing his mom everywhere was great, and whatever King Shark did put a stupid smile on my face. So all in all, this was a fantastic film and a great soft reboot of the not-so-fantastic original film. With just a couple tiny blemishes that don't ruin the experience at all, they were more than pushed to the side, with literally everything else being fantastic. Hopefully we'll see a future sequel, just like this one, with less studio interference and letting the director's insane vision come to fruition. Well, I think think this film deserves something like a nice lovely 9 out of 10. It's great. Go watch and support this.